Good morning, everybody. There's lots of news that I missed or I'm trying to catch up with or whatever. And one of the biggest is we did it. Max has 338 ridings association set up. Here's the email. So this was an email. I'm part of the, I'm a member of the PPC and involved. So I get the emails and interested, right? Obviously. So the email says, quote, "We did it. After only 3 months, the People's Party has reached its goal of setting up 338 associations, one in every riding. This is our gift of hope to Canadians so that we may bring back freedom, responsibility, fairness, and respect to our country in 2019. Canada Poly, I have one wish for Christmas, that you and each one of our party's 33,800 members bring even more hope by contributing $3.38 or $33.80 today to help us spread this good news. Thank you so much, and Merry Christmas." Merry Christmas to you too, Max. And I wanted to show you this. There's some things that I'm still waiting for to hear from Mr. Bernier, but he is talking here about supporting the ridings associations going forward. This is published on December 21st, and this is, I believe, Burnaby South was the last EDA to be set up, so he Skyped in or something to that effect, and he did this video. But he talks here, it's like 30 seconds, it's very quick. He talks here about what's next in January, and what's next is supporting the ridings associations and setting up candidates, right? Like getting your candidates vetted and making sure all the ridings associations are proper and set up correctly, etc. Now, I want to say here as well, getting all of the riding associations set up was not a foregone conclusion. It is a difficult task to get your party recognized by Elections Canada and get riding set up across the country. That is no small feat and should not be underestimated. That is a Herculean effort. That is a massive feat. That's not easy to do. And it's so not easy to do that most people just dismiss Max as as probably not able to even get that far. So he's done something that is difficult and politically not likely. So that's amazing. So also, however, we need to state that there are many more unlikely things we need to do on the path to having Maxime Bernier be more than a bit player in the 2019 election. And anybody who doesn't see that is not looking at reality. Now, the reality is the Conservatives have a bit more, the Conservative Party, CPC, have a bit more robust infrastructure. They have fundraising set up and running, right? They're making per month probably what Maxime's whole operating budget is right now, right? They'll make more than that in a month. And the reason for that is they're the de facto opposition to Trudeau. They're a huge party. They have a history. They are the consolidated right. And there are a lot of people who, if they have heard of Max, they won't give him the time of day. So we need to look at that reality. So on one side of things, what Max has done is flies in the face of it being likely, and he's done it anyway. So that's wonderful. And what needs to be done is just as unlikely to happen. But we can look at that and say, look at what he's done already. So we'll see. And I mean, Scheer is coming out stronger and stronger, and that's not beneficial for Max necessarily, because if people are satisfied with Mr. Scheer, then they won't be looking for an alternative. They'll park their vote. However, all of that said, politics isn't a one-year game, right? Like politics isn't even, I mean, at this point, I think probably politics is a 40 to 50-year game, and that's very, very scary. Anyway, I've gotten off track here. This is Max promising to support the candidates and the EDAs, the Electoral District Associations, to get their candidates up and running in January. And that leaves a long, long time, 9 months, 8 months to get your message out, and then 50 days before the election is when the writ drops, and that's election time. And at that point, you need all the money and all hands on deck. And anyway, here's Max saying, I'm going to support people to get the candidates, etc.
Let's add also, it's in early 2019, we will approve all the riding association, and we will work with the riding association to be sure that they're ready for the next election. I just want to thank you again and to wish you an Happy New Year and Merry Christmas.
And I'll leave him there. Okay, so this is Andrew Scheer's take on Pierre Poilievre's popular video from the other day, or his own. It's a good video. It is a 1 minute video. It's not as funny as Pierre's video, but it's pretty good. And the joke it's a little bit of a long walk, but it's worth the walk. And I don't know. As I said, Andrew Scheer's coming out stronger, and that's not a bad thing. It is for Max, but it's not a bad thing for Canada necessarily. We'll see in 2019, but we'll see. Another person is responding to him. When are you going to publicly say that if elected, you will withdraw Canada from the UN Migration Pact? Until then, you won't get my vote. There are big differences between Andrew Scheer and Maxime Bernier, and that is not to be understated as well. And this is one of them. Scheer has said publicly that he is against the Global Compact for Migration, but he has not stated what he will do with it. And in my mind, that's necessary. But the way Andrew Scheer is playing his politics, we're not going to hear about that for a little while unless he gets pushed on it more. And I don't see people pushing on it very much. So I think that he thinks that he's said enough with regard to the Global Compact, and people can imply that he's going to pull people out. I think after Trudeau, you need to make it as plain as possible. But what I mean by after Trudeau is Trudeau was elected because we did the anybody but Harper vote. We didn't want to split, we being the idiots who voted for Trudeau. I'm an idiot who voted for Trudeau, so I apologize. But they didn't want to split the vote and potentially give Harper a minority, right? Which potentially would have happened because the NDP were popular in Quebec and Trudeau was popular in Ontario, and we could have seen Harper get a minority. Oh, I would have loved that. But not then, but now, because Canada would not be in such danger. All of that said, I think Scheer will come out early 2019 saying that he'll pull Canada from the UN Global Compact, and I don't know what's going to happen with the UN. The UN is a mess. The final story today is a pretty big one, and it's Justin Trudeau talking about having to monitor those evil people who don't want immigration. And so this is Jill Colton saying, Trudeau says, quote, "There's a small minority who we have to monitor." And she says, what? Those that speak out against immigration need to be monitored by the government? And this is Bill Tufts saying, shocked that the English media has not covered these videos on Trudeau. Canadians would be outraged. Yes, you will. Okay, so I'm going to keep this muted, and we are going to have the question asked. And the question asked is about yellow vests and yellow vest protesting in Canada. And are you worried that this protest will flare up in Canada? And it's incredible where Mr. Trudeau goes with this. It's really, really crazy. At 1 minute and 30 seconds, he says, yes, there are a small minority who are becoming increasingly louder and which we will have to monitor, keep an eye on. Yes, observe. So the link is in the description. Feel free to check out the video for yourself. And I'm going to read what they're saying and do my best to keep up. It goes a little quick at times, so I might have to jump back. So sorry about that, but here we go. Hear how Justin Trudeau doesn't answer this question. And my notes are here. So just if you forget the question and you're wondering what he's talking about, just have a look at my notes. Okay, here we go. We've observed the yellow vests in France since yesterday. This weekend in Canada, people demonstrated in 4 cities, also wearing yellow vests and protesting against the recently introduced carbon tax, as well as against immigration. Are you worried to see this movement flare up in various Canadian cities? Justin Trudeau says, I find the Conservative politicians really have contributed to nurturing a specific narrative, which particularly aims to disengage from protecting the environment. Here in Quebec, there is consensus when it comes to the environment. But those 11 Conservative Quebec MPs should really be asked, what's their plan? And then the host breaks in. Hold on, I'm going to pause it. The host breaks in and says, do you think that they're involved with the yellow vest? Like, do you think they're behind the yellow vest movement? So he was asked, we've seen yellow vest protests in France against the carbon tax, and he starts going off on the Quebec consensus on the environment and talking about immigration. And I want to point out, if you bring somebody who is living in a low carbon area like Africa, right? They don't have to use oil and gas to heat their homes to keep their homes above freezing. In Canada, we do. So we're a high carbon society and they're a low carbon society, right? Like they use less carbon than we do. So mass bringing people from a low carbon society to a high carbon society negatively affects our emissions, right? It will increase our emissions. So I think that it's really interesting the tack that he's taking to kind of wiggle through the environment carbon tax protest. He's like, oh yeah, okay, carbon, environment, and then trying to tie it to immigration. But anybody who's thinking, and it's clearly Trudeau's not, he's just he's putting together those word salady bits, right? He's tossed his little word salad and he's throwing out the platitude, blah, blah, blah. But anybody who's thinking knows that it doesn't hold water. That theory just falls apart. Just like increasing our population will be good for our economic growth or good for our economy, and he says that too. But it's just maddening how, if you weren't paying attention and just listened to the question and the answer, the back and forth, then you get drawn in because you're trying to listen and understand where he's going with the point. And because you're doing that, because you're being a respectful listener, he's exploiting you to just push. And this is what politicians do, right? He's talking about his stump speech. You kind of hit somewhere close to something I can talk about and push my narrative further, and I'm going to do that. He doesn't actually address the question. So anyway, carrying on, do you think they are behind the Yellow Vest movement? The Conservatives. I think the Conservatives are playing dangerous games when they nurture this controversy, just as they did when opposing the Global Compact on migration. Such as Andrew Scheer, who claims that we would lose our sovereignty. Listen, this is just ridiculous. He is just aggressively misinforming the people. It is dangerous in a society when you start to play on emotions and choose to ignore the facts. So you don't think this movement will spread to other Canadian cities? I know that the vast majority of Canadians know that we have to act when it comes to climate change, and they know that, sorry, this went too fast, know that immigration is a factor in economic growth for our country, and not a weakness as they pretend. Those positions are shared by a majority of Canadians. Yet there is a small minority who are becoming increasingly louder, and which we will have to monitor, keep an eye on as well. Yes, observe. A few minutes left to talk about the relations between you and Donald Trump. And I'll leave that there. You can watch the rest of it in the description. Link is in the description if you like. But is that not concerning to you? If you disagree with Justin Trudeau's fiscal policy of flooding Canada with migrants or immigrants, or increasing our immigrants to 1 million a year or 1 million over the next 3 years, or all of these targets that are meant to bring in more and more people, and if you speak up against that, he is going to monitor you. He's said that. That is insanity. That seems very, very draconian. That seems like somebody you don't want in charge of your government. And regardless of your position on immigration, if you think that it's absolutely necessary and we need to be bringing in all of these people, you should at least have tolerance of people who have a different opinion and a different idea. Multiculturalism has only been Canada's policy since the 1980s, I believe. That's not very long in Canada's history. And it seems to be not doing a great job at maintaining the Canadian fabric of our society, right? So it seems like something we should maybe talk about, especially when Justin Trudeau is saying that if you disagree, you should be watched, monitored. We got to pay attention to those dangerous, dangerous people who disagree with us, right? Is that the government of Canada, or is that communist China? It seems more and more like communist China. I wonder if they're monitoring me. So I'm ready for the fight. I'm ready for the uphill climb. I'm ready for the battle. Let's do what we can. Check out the People's Party of Canada.ca. Have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas Eve. And I don't know, I might do another video today. We'll see. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for watching.